All right, everyone, time for more 2020 bullshit and some polling. Now, obviously, first and foremost, and for anyone who's not familiar with sort of my analysis, never care too much about a single poll, whether it's good for what you believe in or bad. In fact, believe it less if it paints a rosy picture about something. Like politically, you're like, I support this candidate, this poll has him way up. Oh my god, I'm so happy. No. Assume the opposite. Assume it's full of shit unless it's part of an aggregate that bears it out. You need 5 or 6 good polls in a fairly short period, like a 2-week period, to be of any real use. And so I use RCP. You can go there, you can go Trump approval, the congressional approval, the candidate polling for the 2020 primaries and stuff. Like Trump's, obviously the candidate for the Republicans, but on the Democratic side, you've got 3 highly viable candidates, 3 more technically viable candidates, and then a clown car of several dozen other people. So it can be a little bit difficult, especially since some of the polls, they don't even include all the candidates. Like, they just assume, like, they won't have Gabbard, or they won't have Hickenlooper, or they'll leave off Julian Castro or something. They'll leave him off because they're like, well, we need 10 sheets of paper to do the poll. That's going to be fucking difficult. So instead of the robocall lasting 10 minutes just listing off the candidates, we'll just shorten it down to, like, the top dozen that we think are most viable or something. Which, by the way, is a terrible thing because it actually precludes lower candidates from rising up. Which is kind of by design. These people, they want a neoliberal. They want Biden, mainly. Trust me, people at CNN and shit, they want Joe Biden. They think that he's got the biggest chance of winning. That's fundamentally what it's about. They want him to be the candidate and choose a much younger, further left, like a Kamala Harris is his running mate. That's what they want. That's their dream ticket. I don't think it's going to work. But we've got a CNN poll. And they're actually reporting on it, which is the odd part. Trump at 43% approval in the wake of the Mueller report, reported today. Now, this is a CNN poll. Generally speaking, if you look at polls, you look at the aggregate. The aggregate is the most accurate possible number. If you have a polling firm that systemically, more than 75 or so percent of the time, over or undershoots that aggregate, you need to start looking at whether that poll can be slightly adjusted and give you reality. CNN has systemically underestimated Trump's support. It continuously rides below the aggregate. So to see it at 43 indicates to me upward movement. Because it's not saying like, oh, he's at 38% or something. By the way, if a poll shows him at sub 40, it's front page news worldwide. But then Rasmussen comes out with its poll that systemically overestimates his support by I think 3 or 4 points. And they'll say, well, he's at 51. Oh, not a peep. Basically, you see it there, and it's reported on Breitbart, and Trump will tweet about it, and that's pretty much it. That's basically the name of the game. Cherry-picking polls for optical reasons is a new political strategy that everyone seems to love employing. Basically, 90% of the media will go with whatever poll in an aggregate says that Trump's approval is lowest, and then Trump and Breitbart and Drudge will go with the highest approval poll. But this shows upward movement, which makes perfect sense. You have the Mueller report now weighing like a chain around the Democratic Party's neck, number one. The Democrats are now an extremely crowded field with a clear front runner who is not particularly well liked among certain demographic groups within the Democratic Party. It's beginning to take a toll. They're trying to Benghazi Trump. It was reporting today, they were like, oh, the Democrats are basically thinking about the possibility of trying to Benghazi him, to obstruct him. They've already been doing that. What ended up happening with Benghazi? It wasn't popular. It was among Democratic partisans, among ideological liberals, it's popular. Just like that back then, among partisan Republicans, who the Republicans don't have to whine and dine much because they're fucking partisans, or people that are like hardline conservative, yeah, they loved the Benghazi investigations. They looked at it like a blood sport practically. Didn't win them any new votes, did it? No, you need an ideological platform, or the incumbent needs to do something, the opponents need to suggest doing something. Trump has done things. He's lowered the tax burden on most Americans. The economy's churning along. Partially that's not his particular responsibility, but in part it is. He's revamped trade deals. You can think of them as good or bad, but he did fulfill a promise there. He ended the ACA mandate, although that doesn't actually physically take effect until the next tax season, which is a problem for him, at least in the immediate tense. People's taxes are going to drop like a rock for the uninsured. 2.5% means a lot if you have a decent salary, by the way. That's a huge saving. Yeah, I'm going to appreciate it. That $2,000 or whatever it is, what am I going to do with it? I can do all sorts of things. And one thing I don't want to do is give it to Uncle Sam to bomb more people. And so you get a situation. He's got foreign policy changes. China trade deal will be coming in well before the election. And now the Mueller report has ended and he's been exonerated. He's got all sorts of advantages. So it makes sense that his polling would rise. Now, does this mean that he ends up at the magic 47 that everyone talks about? Well, Obama got reelected with 47% approval, so that's sort of the floor. If you go below that, then you can't get reelected. I don't believe that. I think depending on the situation, he could get elected at 45%, which is not far from where he is. I'd say his approval right now is about 43, 44, which is pretty much stable. That's where it's been. And it was lower for a while, but in the wake of the Mueller report, that thing holding him down, that suppression of his support, has been alleviated. You're going to see it start, I think, to slowly climb over the coming year. I think that decent economic news will contribute to that. General feeling of prosperity, wealth, you know, higher wages and so forth, which have been happening. It was funny. A lot of people like as well the fact that he's hard-lining on immigration now again. Like by sending people to sanctuary cities, saying, oh, well, you know, the Democrats won't let me detain people because they don't want, you know, borders, and they won't let me build a wall to make a border, so I'm just going to send them all to, like, sanctuary cities and shit. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's an optics win. It'll definitely be an optics win when you start seeing riots break out in some of these big cities that say, well, we don't care about the immigration system. That'll be funny. It'll suck for all the residents of the sanctuary cities, and it'll suck for the migrants that have come into them, but for everyone else in the country, they'll just be fucking awestruck. And you can tell that places that are like swing areas that have less of the immigration concern in the direct sense, and it's more the indirect impact of economic globalism, like places like Pennsylvania or something, they're going to be watching with very rapt attention. It's going to be very funny to see Biden start to frenetically campaign up in the Great Lakes region. How is he going to do that when it's winter? That dude, he's so old, he must get cold more easily. He has to sit there in his suit. He's going to have like an underlining to it, like a woolen underlining under his suit in order to be able to function up there. Trump will just scarf down another burger and metabolize it faster. It'd be really funny to see the different campaign styles. Sleepy Joe. No, you mean Creepy Joe. It's going to be very funny. But yeah, CNN's poll, usually it shows Trump several points below whatever the aggregated number is. So when they're showing it 43, that's a pretty good indicator that he's doing well. That's a CNN. CNN does not like Trump. Let's understand here. You think liberal bias in the media. Okay, set that aside. CNN as a for-profit corporate entity does not like Donald Trump. The only thing they like about him is that it makes low-hanging fruit because he makes tweets every day that they can report on. He's basically giving them their news cycle. He can get them to say whatever he wants. He knows, hey, if I mention something, they'll report on it. They'll just spin it so that it sounds negative for me, so I can carefully tailor their news of the day. He literally gets to choose what you listen to. It's, you know, it's bullshit. It's actually funny. It is sort of fascistic when you think about it. The president is controlling the media. He's just not doing it directly. There's no attack on the First Amendment. They're destroying themselves. They're running themselves into the ground. It's hilarious every fucking day. That's about all. Peace out.